Basketball has been basically my whole life. I've always loved the game since I was a young age, so I couldn't think of a better spot to be in than to learn from one of the best coaches of all time and one of the best organizations in any sport.
Oh, goodness gracious, Derrick White!
Making winning plays. Get that out of here.
The Smart for the seventh game. Can have been tipped in.
Derrick White, why not? 38 for Derrick White tonight.
While big names like Lonzo Ball, Jayson Tatum, and De'Aaron Fox took over the 2017 NBA draft, Derrick White was the hidden gem and the biggest steal of that draft class. And while he proved to be a valued role player in San Antonio, Derrick White has completely reshaped his career in Boston. Although they would lose the ECF in 7 last year, he literally saved the Celtics season with that improbable shot in Game 6. Plays like that define Derrick White as a basketball player. White has become the NBA's most rapidly ascending two-way player despite once being an afterthought. His role on the Celtics is so intricate to their team's success, but his story didn't come to be as exactly as you may expect. The way he got to the NBA was way different than others. Standing at just 5 feet 6 inches tall in his freshman year of high school, Derrick White wasn't even supposed to make it this far. In fact, when he finally did draw some interests from college, it was from Johnson & Wales, a school known for producing culinary talent, not basketball talent. After staying in college for all 4 years, White finally entered the NBA, just barely making the cut in the first round of the 2017 NBA draft. But school hadn't left White behind just yet, because he admitted that he used his first NBA paycheck to pay off his student loan debt. Can you believe that? But unlike his college career, White's NBA career has been all about growth and his rise to becoming one of the most improved players in all of basketball. In fact, according to legendary NBA head coach Greg Popovich, he was one of the first ones to project how good White would be in the NBA. Pop said when he first came, I don't think he believed he belonged in the NBA. To watch him develop through the years here, starting with the G League, playing with us and starting for us, and then taking more steps in Boston has just been a thrill to watch. He's been in the league 6-7 years, but he's a great story, starting out at the bottom and believing in himself and doing the work necessary to get to where he is now. I mean, hey, about what Pop said about White not belonging, you can't blame a guy who came from where White came from for feeling that way. It was early in his career in San Antonio under Greg Popovich where Derrick White slowly made waves as a rising star, but without a major injury to one key player, Derrick White might have never gotten an opportunity to begin with. See, when the Spurs entered the 2018-19 NBA season, it was a start of a brand new era. Tim Duncan retired 2 years earlier, Tony Parker had moved on to Charlotte, Manu Ginobili said goodbye to his legendary NBA career, and Kawhi Leonard got his wish to be traded. That left behind one of the league's youngest rosters with the oldest coach. The focal point at the point guard position of the New Age Spurs was supposed to be 22-year-old DeJounte Murray, who the Spurs drafted towards the end of the first round in 2016. But in a preseason game in early October, the hopeful future face of the franchise went down with an unfortunate ACL injury, officially sidelining him for the rest of the season. So what were the Spurs going to do now? Try to be ultra competitive by really pushing their young talent they had to the brink? Or throw in the towel on the season in hopes of getting the prize of next year's NBA draft, which many were projecting would be Duke's Zion Williamson? Well, in pure Popovich fashion, the Spurs remained in go mode, thanks to the emergence of one unlikely, unsuspecting backup guard by the name of Derrick White, making a nice pairing with Spurs All-Stars DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. After the injury to Murray, Pop all but publicly confessed his faith in White to lead the Spurs as the starting point guard. In a league where confidence is the ultimate prize, can you imagine how good this must have felt for the 23-year-old White to see a first-ballot Hall of Fame coach believe in him the way he did? After an up-and-down start to the season, Derrick White and the Spurs finally hit their stride around mid-season. January saw White take yet another step en route to his speedy ascension as a key player in the Spurs rotation. During the month, White averaged 15.3 points on 60% shooting, including 47% from the three-point line, while averaging 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal per game. This production translated to wins as the Spurs went 10-5 in January. The Spurs used this growing momentum to march into the NBA playoffs with a respectable 48-34 record as the league's 7th best offense. Against a young but rapidly improving Denver Nuggets team in the first round, White really took the next steps to becoming star caliber. Throughout the grueling 7-game series, White was the 3rd leading scorer for the Spurs and the MVP of a critical Game 3. With the series knotted at 1 game apiece, White outscored Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray combined. He played the game of his life, dropping 36 points with 26 of those points coming in the first half. Brothers, here I was sitting here again, thinking to myself, the Spurs really just did it again. Another late-round draft pick that was turning into a star. How does Popovich continue to do this? At this rate, Derrick White was looking like the new-age Tony Parker with his craftiness and fearlessness on the biggest stages. In the following season, White made more strides, turning himself into a 37% shooter from three-point range and getting his scoring average in the double figures. By the 2021-22 season, White was an elite role player, averaging over 14 points per game playing just over 30 minutes a night. But the Spurs surprisingly traded White to the Boston Celtics, where his career wouldn't just change, it would arguably reach all-star level. A big market is exactly what the doctor ordered for White. In his first start-to-finish season with the Boston Celtics 2 regular seasons ago, Derrick White got the recognition he wasn't getting in small-market San Antonio. For the first time in his career, White was selected to second-team All-Defense. Derrick White, alongside a defense juggernaut in Marcus Smart, gave the Celtics a defensive frontline that no team had in years. Since joining the Celtics back in February 2022, White has slowly grown to be a top player for the franchise. He had a rough start adjusting to his new team's style, especially with shooting from downtown, but he put in the work during his first offseason, tweaking his form with assistant coach Ben Sullivan. And let me tell you, it paid off big time. In year 2 at Boston, White found his groove and started to shine brighter. His field goal and three-point percentage increased, and he became not just some role player, but considered the Celtics' 3rd best guy after Tatum and Brown. In Game 1 of the 2023 first-round playoff series against the Atlanta Hawks, he was the backbone of the team's performance against the Hawks, showing off his smarts both offensively and defensively. He finished with 24 points, just 5 points shy of Jaylen Brown, who scored highest, and White also got the 2nd most assists in the night with 7. White can stay low and steady, making it tough for opponents to shake him off. And in the playoffs, that kind of consistent pressure can really make a difference. So, while we often talk about guys like Tatum and Brown, White's defensive game is just as crucial for the Celtics. Trading Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, and a draft pick for White seemed like a decent deal at the time, but now it's clear the Celtics got themselves a steal. In just his 3rd season with the team, White has solidified himself as a top-notch two-way player, making big plays on defense and dropping buckets like it's nobody's business. In this season, he has hit a career-high average of over 15 points per game while dishing out over 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, and a steal per game. That's some serious all-star caliber material right there. He even came super close to getting his first all-star nod, which is huge. White was honored with the prestigious Red Auerbach Award. Named after the Celtics legend himself, this award goes to the player or coach who embodies the Celtics spirit both on and off the court. Less than a year ago, White saved the day in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Heat. With just seconds left on the clock, he inbounded the ball, crashed the boards, caught the rebound, and tipped in the winning clutch shot. In Game 4 against Miami this year, White dropped a career-high 38 points, leading Boston to a solid 102-88 victory and a commanding 3-1 lead in the series. But how exactly has Derrick White been able to take an already elite team like the Boston Celtics to an even higher level? Well, for years, the Boston Celtics lacked a crucial dimension on the floor, a true point guard. From Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving, Terry Rozier, and more in between, Boston hasn't had anyone who was consistently getting Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown open shots in the biggest games of this season. Just go back to the NBA Finals in 2022. Tatum and Brown were leading a turnover parade, fumbling, stumbling, crashing everywhere without a plan in mind down the stretch of games. With how bad some of those turnovers got, I could have sworn I was watching a pickup game at my freaking local 24-hour fitness. With White on the court this season, the Celtics had an all-time great 124.5 offensive rating. Without White, though still great, Boston's offensive rating fell to 120. White comes from Spurs culture under Greg Popovich, where they teach players how to move the ball and execute down the stretch. Despite the individual greatness of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they aren't distributors and floor generals by nature. And when the game slows down in large-stakes playoffs games, you need a point guard. Just ask the Phoenix Suns. The greatest testament to how valuable Derrick White is might just be in a matter of time if the Celtics can finally bring home their first banner since 2008. While Derrick White wasn't ever as good in San Antonio as he is now, the league should have never allowed Boston to get their hands on him. How do you describe Derrick White's importance and value for the Boston Celtics? Is he the biggest X factor in the NBA playoffs? How much longer before he's finally given recognition as an NBA All-Star? Let us know in the comments below.